which is a flying bird. A mechanical bird. The next morning we stepped onto the street to find a gigantic bronze and steel bird waiting for us. This was the transport Manusha had hinted at. I gulped for fear, but Monsieur Fogg was not even slightly concerned. He leapt aboard, consulted his pocket watch, and smiled as we lifted into the sky. Let's converse. Let's give him the wool trousers, the shortbread biscuits, the woolly shirts. There we go, he's back to 81 health now. We're tending him as best we can. The flight was, in fact, glorious. We swept over mountains, deep ravines, tiny villages, and deep jungle. It was the wildest, deepest journey I had yet seen, and we soared above it, as though it were a painting and we its audience. Even Monsieur Fogg was enjoying himself. The speed had brought a touch of colour to his otherwise meticulously pale cheek. "Passepartout," he declared, with true passion. "However you have arranged this, I am most impressed." "A mighty compliment indeed." I nodded my head a fraction. A suitable reply. It's so stiff upper lip, it's insane. Anyways, we landed into Pangsao Pass under cover of darkness. The bird let us down gently, dropped our cases, and then wheeled away dramatically into the sky. "Excellent progress," Monsieur Fogg remarked. But I could not help but remember Manusia's words, and felt certain there was a price yet to be paid. Relations have strengthened. Yeah. And we have nothing to do here but sleep. There were no hotels in Pangsao Pass, but we were put up for the night in a local man's thatch-roofed dwelling. Okay, let's explore. We can't do anything else. There was a mood of grim celebration when we arrived at Pangsao Pass. A man by the name of Captain Chalmers had captured Surya, a notorious Indian revolutionary responsible for some of the recent disturbances in Chittagong. "Would you like to come with me to interrogate the man?" Captain Chalmers asked genially. "I cannot trust the natives to guard my back." Uh-oh. His smile was deceptive. He had forbidden anyone to leave until his business was concluded. What will you do to him?" I asked, against my better judgment. "We will have answers," he replied grimly, "one way or another." He is a human being, Captain Chalmers. I hope you will afford him the dignity of one." He waved away my refusal. "We must know the names of his fellow conspirators. I will do my duty to find them out, even if you will not." Chalmers went toward his prison hut, and I realized with a sinking heart that this was Manusia's task. For me, I was supposed to rescue the helpless Indian rebel. I made my way towards the prison hut with a heavy heart. The prison hut was a small, rancid-smelling place that had been used more than once. Monsieur Fogg, standing by the door with me, raised an eyebrow. "Perhaps they will listen to me," he suggested. I don't know. Do we trust Fogg? We have to trust Fogg. Good idea, I said. Monsieur Fogg stepped quickly forward and knocked on the door. I cannot imagine what the reaction inside was like to this most polite of interruptions, but I took the opportunity to slip around the back of the hut. There was a pile of dry firewood stacked against one wall underneath a window. A fire would be an excellent distraction, I thought. And there had been lit candles back in the barrack huts. a short walk from the prison. I hurried away, trusting that my master would delay things, even if he could not resolve them. I returned a moment later with a flame. The dry bark caught quickly. I hurried back behind another hut. The fire caught quickly and spread to the roof of the hut. The effect was immediate. The captain leapt into action, leaving the hut door wide open. We ran inside. Immediately, not wasting a second, Surya's bonds were cut in a moment using a knife which was, fortuitously, lying there as though just for this purpose. Monsieur Fogg helped Surya to his feet, while I waited in the doorway, keeping watch. Then we were away, limping down the hillside, to collapse breathless behind an outcrop of rock. Surya's eyes were dimmed, and his breathing hoarse. "I thank you, whoever you are," he gasped. "You will be saved, I promise it." And thus we stayed, watching as the frantic officers tried to quench the fire and failed, believing all the while, I think, that Surya was still inside. Fogg approved. What do you know? New routes have been discovered. Oh good lord, where are we going? To Beijing! No! Okay, well, that was not where I wanted to go, but okay. Now I wish I'd bought all those items. We had so many items that were valuable in Beijing. And I kept thinking, I'm never gonna go that far north. Oh well. Up on the birdie we go. And again, this is why you kind of want to buy everything, because you don't know quite where your travels are going to take you. The Garuda that swooped to collect us seemed to know exactly where we were hiding amongst the trees. It snatched our luggage and then us, and disappeared up into the sky before any of the British soldiers could level their guns. I tried to explain to Monsieur Fogg that this was a reward for our bravery, but he seemed most disinterested in the whys and wherefores of the matter. It is clear some things simply do not register on a gentleman's mind. By the way, the reason I didn't want to follow the soldiers up to the Impala Pass is because there you witnessed the atrocities, if I remember right. You know, I didn't want to smear the reputation of the Welshmen in that regiment. Anyways, I had to ask Surya what would happen next, and it took a few awful shuddering breaths before answering. "I have friends in China," he replied. They have no love for the British," and he grinned a toothless, blooded grin. "I will recover there for a time." "You have done well," I told him. It seemed the compassionate thing to say. He smiled gratefully and then slumped back into sleep. Let's converse with Fogg then. Talk about Beijing. There are no airships allowed in Beijing, okay. Let's give him all the shirts and biscuits and everything. There we go, he's back to 93 points of health. It's going to go down as we land, I think, but so be it. We crossed the Himalayas at such speed and height that their snow-capped peaks were but a long stretch of foamy sea. We grew cold on the back of that great creature, and Surya, oh, misspelling there I guess, Surya shivered terribly even as we swooped down and landed within sight of the city of Beijing. I tended Surya, attempting to warm him a little, and he gave me my hands a grateful squeeze. It is not far. Empress Sichi will have no airships in the city limits. That includes Garuda, like this fine fellow. The Garuda in question began to hiss and rumble a little. It spoke in the grating, curiously musical voice of Manusia. "Ah, Jean Passepartout," it said, "I knew you were more than you seemed." Well then, at least we made the mechanical lion happy. Market time. This is valuable here, I'll sell it. The loafers are valuable here, good, let's sell those. Caribbean timetable, heavy storms, eastern spices, Honolulu, Brisbane, Batavia, we're not going to go that path. Gideon's Bible. Seasickness pills. I think we're gonna go with the compass. We are gonna go to the sea soon. Seasickness pills sounds good. Let's go with that. Let's go with three suitcases. We have to stay here now that we can't explore, so... Halfway there. Day 40, we are in Beijing. We'll spend the night. There were no airships sailing across the Beijing sky, nor any evidence of electrification. Though the Chinese did not shun all technology, palanquins were drawn by intricately worked and gilded iron lions, as often as human servants, and I saw animated metal and jade dragons, perched on the gables of imperial buildings, breathing curls of steam vapor and flapping their animal feathers wings. Furthermore, I was lucky enough to catch a performance of the famous Sui Shi opera, the cast consisting entirely of hydraulic elegances, automata by another name. I was told it was an ancient tradition begun over 1,000 years ago by Huang Gun, an engineer who had made Sui Shi wine pourers and musicians, dancing girls, and acrobats for his emperor's court. True, perhaps so, but the opera itself, my friends, it was... not to my taste. Utterly terrifying. A thing of great beauty. I forgot that the performers were fashioned from brass and iron, that their eyes were polished onyx, that their lips were gently glazed porcelain. I saw only the purity of their movements. We were the guests of... Okay, who are we going to be the guests of? The Han opium trader or the Manchu court official? Who invited us to the opera? Tough choice. Wanna go with the court official? Yeah, okay. Let's play safe. Let's go with the court official. Who clearly believed us to be spies or troublemakers of some nature. That didn't take long. Despite my innocent expression, which was wearing rather false after so many international escapades, as we departed the auditorium, I made a polite inquiry about the Dowager Empress Cixi, who was a figure of near legend in the West. She is a modernizer. Emperor Tongzi is lucky to have her wisdom and counsel, he said, carefully avoiding any direct criticism of the emperor, who was rumored to be a feckless sort. We thanked our host and made our way back to our lodgings. A pair of opium addicts were slumped in an alley near our hotel, faces blankly blissful despite the emaciation of their limbs. I saw the poison and rot at the heart of Beijing and wondered how long even such a grand structure could endure it. So I'll have to explore. See if we can find new paths. Okay, to Urga. We can travel to Hong Kong or Vladivostok. Apparently. I struck up a few conversations here and there, hunting for options on how we might proceed. Okay, let's... down to Hong Kong or all the way to Vladivostok. That is by train, two carts only, okay. That is already all closed. Tomorrow at 11 we can travel there. If I sell items you can travel south to... Oh, come on. Stop moving. Okay, I need to go to the market. The part's at 1. Oh, we have to hurry. Market. Sell this. Sell the steam gauge. Keep this. Actually sell that too. Fine. Uh-oh. Gotta hurry. Dock is running away. Close. Travel. Embark. Departing now. I made it with 1 minute to spare. 1 minute to spare. But at least we're gonna go to Hong Kong now, which is where I wanted to go. We boarded the Beijing Express for the next leg of the journey through China to Hong Kong. And again, this is why I want to travel light, because sometimes you can't really afford that many suitcases. But again, items can be valuable. Hong Kong to Honolulu. Hong Kong to Pitcairn Island, no, to Canton. Let's use the T. Talk to me about Hong Kong, please. To Manila. Oh, Yokohama. Yokohama was a choice. So, from Hong Kong to Machu Picchu. Anyways, we learned a few new routes. From Hong Kong to Yokohama, right? Yes, that's the route I want. However, the journey from Yokohama will take us. We need 3,000 pounds. So we'll see how that goes. From Beijing to Hong Kong was another 1,000 miles, but the train line took a clever route that avoided most of the large towns entirely, running without stopping by the shortest route possible. I passed the time talking to other passengers, hoping to gather information for our next journey. I met a nervous Siamese master and had a pleasant if unproductive conversation that whiled the hours away. Evening turning to night, and the train did not stop or slow. So we're going kind of in the wrong direction. There's Canton, that's on the inside of the country, we want to go there. The countryside fell away to be replaced by busy, bustling worker towns. Large industrial plants belched steam into the air, and mechanical contraptions stalked between the warehouses. The rail line lifted, then dived underground, and finally we pulled to a halt in Hong Kong's main station. And of course, in Hong Kong we just might inquire a few of the things. Jade figurines. In San Pedro, that's not where we're going. Already I got seasick pills. I don't need the Indian tables anymore. I can buy this jade figurine, I suppose. I never know. And let's explore. So, for those of you who have read the novel, we might just meet Mr. Fix. There we go! I was perusing a market stall in Hong Kong when I was greeted by the familiar quivering moustache of Monsieur Fix. "What are you doing here of all places, monsieur?" I exclaimed. He offered me a drink, and given that I had a few hours to spare, I could not in good conscience refuse. He led me into a dingy basement where a sour-faced Chinese woman presided over several tables, and a few couches with men and women, mostly Europeans, in various states of lulling intoxication. "You frequent such a place?" I asked, attempting to reconfigure my image of Monsieur Fix. "The gin is good," he told me, and ordered us a bottle to prove his claim. It was thin and sharp, but not wholly distasteful. We chatted amiably for a time, though I noted he kept my glass full, and not his own. "Listen," he said abruptly, "I am a police detective, sent from the London office." "You a detective?" I could not hide my incredulity, but he presented me with his commission, which seemed in all respects genuine and correct. "You have been duped," he resumed. "Mr. Fogg's wager is a pretext. Last September a robbery of £55,000 was committed at the Bank of England by a person whose description answers exactly to that of Mr. Phileas Fogg." What nonsense, I cried, striking the table with my fist. My master is the most honorable of men. You know scarcely anything of your master, Fix ground on. You went into his service the day he departed on this so-called wager, carrying little but a large quantity of banknotes. He is an honest man, I asserted mechanically, though in the face of Fix's absolute certainty, I found myself assailed with prickles of doubt. The detective hissed a breath which fluttered the lips of his oiled moustache. I could arrest you as his accomplice. I felt dizzy, almost sick. Fix pressed a pipe into my hand and I unthinkingly lifted it to my mouth. As my head began to swirl and spin, my fingers shivered. Suddenly I recognized these bleary thoughts for what they were, opium-induced meanderings. This is an opium pipe, I accused, standing up so abruptly that my chair tipped over. How dare you, sir? Fix chuckled hollowly. I dare, because I must at all costs separate you and your master, as you call him. You will regret it. Having delivered my dramatic promise, I stalked out of the opium den without a backward glance. The fresh air cleared my senses a little, and I returned with shaky steps to Monsieur Fogg. Despite the gin sloshing its way through my body, I felt as sober as a judge, and twice as grim. Oh, I failed! So I was trying to get, comatose. That's what happens in the book, right? In the books, you very much get opiumed out, so to speak. I failed at that. Oh well. I mean, the reason I wanted to do that is because that brings up a new storyline, which is kind of interesting. But this is fine too. So now I want to depart to Yokohama on the Jade Tiger. Sure, £100. Let's go. The Jade Tiger was an old Mudge-class Persian airship, renovated with Chinese colors and fittings. It was painted all over with Manchu luck symbols, swastikas, stylized bats and coins. We climbed aboard, ready for our journey east. We can tend fogs, let's do so. Captain Sue wore a traditional Manchu pow in blue cotton, bone hairpins in her fan-shaped hair, and a jade thumb ring. I bowed low in courtly greeting. She looked at me quizzically and then asked a series of questions in Cantonese. I thought so in any case. It sounded similar to Mandarin, which I had picked up a little of on the mainland. An English-speaking crew member was summoned. Her tool belt hung with rope, bolt cutters, and climbing equipment. The captain says she expected you to speak Cantonese, she translated, because you were in Hong Kong. I was only briefly in Hong Kong. I sighed. I did not have much time to practice my languages. The crew member rattled her bolt cutters at me. The captain speaks Cantonese, Mandarin, 3 dialects of Manchu, Russian, and Arabic. Are any of these known to you? Yeah, there are some interesting options, but we're trying to do the polite thing this time around. We can do a more abrasive run in the next path, but I mean that gives you options, right? Even if you travel the exact same route, you get new options. I speak a little Mandarin, I offered weakly, though only very little. The captain, for all her delicacy, arranged hair and grace, looked thoroughly exasperated and stalked off in a huff. The crew member chuckled and stuck her hand out at me. Song Xiu Ying, looks like I'll be looking after you and your master in this trip. Uh-oh. So, how do we proceed there? Delicately or indelicately? Let's go. Demoiselle song. We're gonna pretend she's young, right? I ventured. Zhong Xuxing shuddered. Zhong Xuxing is fine. Try not to mangle it too much. Eh, Passepartout? Her pronunciation was, of course, flawless. Merde! Yeah. Eastern supremacy. Let's go. Let's converse. Oh, it's still with fog. Okay, fine. Let's give him all the bits and pieces. Let's ask him about Yokohama in case he knows something. You can travel the gauge of the east from Yokohama to Manila. Okay, there we go. Manila. Okay, this journey goes both ways, by the way. So some of the trips do that way. I think that Hong Kong to Beijing train route is the same thing. It goes both directions. And the reason for that, by the way, is so that you can backpedal. Because some people make it they try to play this game by visiting as many cities as possible instead of actually completing the journey in 80 days. Which is doable. You have to plan that out very meticulously, and you can't visit everything on one journey, but still. Anyways, Monsieur Fogg took exception to the moth-eaten red silk drapings which adorned our cabin. Moth-eaten red drapings, yeah. And asked me to take them down for the duration of the voyage. Is it the color that distresses you? I asked. Does it matter? He replied, and with perfect equanimity. Oh, good lord. Equanimity. There are some words they're using in this game that I've never seen before. I'm learning new language. The writing is good, though. I suppose it does not in the end, I replied, attempting to consider the matter from my master's ever-logical perspective. Zhong Xuxing looked terribly surprised when she came to fetch us for dinner and saw the bare-walled room. My master is a plain fellow, I explained. How nice of him to have the luxury of taste, was her only remark, but I felt its sting keenly. Okay. What does Fogg know that we don't? Let's groom Fogg a bit. There we go. Bring his health back up. We dined in the captain's quarters, accompanied by Zhong Xuxing. The captain's shelves groaned under the weight of so many books, and I counted 6 composite recurvos hung on the walls. Archery and Russian novels. What an unexpected combination. Zhong Xuxing leaned closer. The captain loves archery almost as much as she loves the Jade Tiger. There are games like that, I think, TARDIS. I'm actually not sure. I mean, there are plenty of travel games. I'm actually not sure if there is one based on the novel. But there probably is. There's got to be. It's one of the most famous travel tales there are. But that would have been kind of cool, yeah. I agree. Do it as a race. Anyways, let's see. Yeah, where did she learn it? Therein lies a tale. The crew member smiled with relish. The captain's father was too old and weak to join the army, and so Captain Sue put on the clothing of a boy and rode out to take his place. Oh, we found Mulan! How daring of her! I gasped. It was a grave risk, but she served for 12 years and gained so much honor that when she was discovered, the generals gifted her with an airship and forgave her the deception. Is that not the plot of a famous Chinese folk tale? I raised an eyebrow. The story of Mulan? Zhong Xuxing's eyes widened. You know the story, she said flatly, and then shrugged. You are not so ignorant as you seem. A most stimulating dinner at the captain's table, all told. Oh, you haven't read the novel Gaming Bread? So the reason I've heard this tale so many times is because I read the novel as a kid. I reread the novel several times. I've seen several of the movies made based on it, the TV series made of it, and there was a cartoon in my youth that also depicted the whole trip. So yeah, I've kind of been fed this story from the early on. It does start this? I didn't know that. That's cool. I don't see quite how you can manage that with how the clock runs, but still. Anyways, we found the story of Mulan. Aren't we educated? And there are a whole bunch of these little things hidden here and there. We tethered at Yokohama in the early afternoon. My eye passed lightly over the slope-roofed buildings, carriages, and bare cherry trees. I made a particular effort to thank the captain, of course, Captain Sue, for her hospitality, in an attempt to convince her that not all foreigners were so boorish as she imagined. Alas, I am not entirely certain I changed her mind. "Ready, Passepartout?" my master called. "Of course, monsieur," I replied eagerly, and followed him onto Japanese soil. Okay. Day 45. Let's go to the market quickly. We can buy a katana, which is worth a lot in Salt Lake City. We are in for San Francisco. Let's buy that. Let's buy this. We might want the heavy storm set things. We have C6 spills already. Did I find new trips? I can't afford this, so we have to go into Yokohama. Come on. Bank opens at 12. Let's explore. We'll have to wait here and make more money, I think. It was hard to believe that Yokohama had only relatively recently opened to foreigners. There was an entire foreigners district not far from the waterfront, where it was as common to hear Chinese or Russian as Japanese. There were several varieties of English to choose from as well, though Monsieur Fogg would have been barely deigned to include the nasal tongue of the American merchants. I noticed a Japanese man watching the scene with a look of intense concentration and scribbling in a sketchbook. I leaned in for a closer look. He was drawing a stylized picture of the foreign quarters with quick pen strokes, which stopped abruptly as my shadow fell over the drawing. He looked up, clearly irritated. "Do you mind?" he said, his accent an unholy mix of Dutch, French, and English. "I am making a drawing for a woodcut." I'm tempted for the middle option here. Tempted. Though the first one is also kind of interesting. The skirts aren't that voluminous, I commented, and he stiffed in a front. Though I amended hastily, "You have drawn them well." "It is an artistic impression of the foreigners," he stressed. You dislike foreigners then?" I predicted. "You are a very strange people," he pronounced after a brief silence. "Everyone is strange," I replied thoughtfully, thinking of my travels. He shrugged, clearly unconvinced. He collared one of the women's skirts lovingly, his hand on the page much gentler and kinder than his voice had been. Finally, he thrust the paper in my direction, assuring me that it was only a preliminary sketch. I accepted gracefully, charmed that he had chosen to bestow a gift upon a near stranger. I stored it carefully. It was a fine souvenir of Yokohama, which would actually make money in San Francisco, but I want to go. So I want to plan my journey to San Francisco. Okay, that's a long journey, but that requires 3,000. in 6 days. Oof, okay, so we need money. But that's okay, let's go to the bank. Mr. Fogg snapped shut his ledger. Let's see if this bank can offer us a good return for our time. I regarded the bank as we entered. We were roundly ignored for 10 minutes by the lackluster staff. You want to make a withdrawal? The manager asked. You may have to wait a day or two. It is now Thursday. In a week, that's 7 days. So I want this. Yeah. Hopefully 800 monies. Hopefully we'll have enough money to stay in the hotels until Monday. Yeah, 1500 on Monday. The manager nodded. I will have to communicate with London first, of course, he apologized. I should have a reply in 2 working days. It seems, Monsieur Fogg remarked as we left, we have some time to dispose of. Okay. Now we have to wait here until Monday. So now we have lots of time to plan and everything. San Pedro. Okay. Let's see, where else? You can sell the Buddha's tooth. This is valuable in San Francisco. Oh, there's a sketch. Also good in San Francisco. The katana is good in Salt Lake City. Okay, let's look at the planning. So now we're stuck here for 4 days. Which is a bit bad, I admit. Because I want to go to San Francisco on this particular journey. Salt Lake is on the journey, right? Yeah. It'll take 19 days to cross the seas here. Well, it is the Pacific, so... Oh well. I guess we'll stay night at the hotel. Now it's Friday. We had another 3 days to wait for a transfer of funds. But you were still deciding what to do before going to bed. I went out to explore a little, enjoying the sights and smells of this curious part of the world. Okay, so we couldn't do anything as bad. Fine. Oh boy, wasting 4 days. Yeah, going through India was a big mistake, but anyways. We had 2 days to wait for our money to arrive from London. But we kept ourselves occupied. We made ourselves comfortable for the night, and I ran a few errands for the hotelier, earning £46 as well as overhearing from him that some buyers will pay well for magnetic compasses from Honolulu. I'm trying to nurse my funds here, because I know we need £3,000 for the journey, right? With what remained of the day, I polished our shoes and hat brims to better prepare us for our inevitable departure. Okay, tomorrow. 1 more day. As night fell, I went to stretch my legs and found a nervous Chinese gentleman who had lost a purse, which I helped to find, and who then, between outbursts of shouting, mentioned that you could obtain candles scented of rose in Singapore, extremely valuable in Hong Kong. I thanked him, and he laughed and went about his business. I mean, that wouldn't help us at all. Now I have to wait. At noon we'll have our money. Tapping the clock will, yeah. We can click this one a little bit. Yeah, tapping the clock is enough. There we go. Get the funds from the bank. We returned to the bank at the opening time to collect our funds, and then we were ready to proceed once more. So we only have just enough money. Can we negotiate this journey ahead of time? Yeah, that's too bad. 2 days. Let's head back to the bank. The bank manager was somewhat surprised to see us back again. I'm gonna have to £700 for tomorrow. But the day after we're gonna actually travel, so there we go. Yeah, that's fine. Return tomorrow. One more night in a hotel. The hotels are expensive, that's the problem. So before tuning in for the night, I engaged another guest in conversation to learn what I could, learning that some buyers will pay well for magnetic compasses from San Francisco. Okay, good to know, I guess. But no! Oh, I clicked the wrong button there. No! So much for that. You have to embark now. Dough. Oh well. Yeah, this one departs at the same time as the bank opens. Dough! I made a mistake. Oh well. Off with the water lily we go.